Marcus Stroman, it's good to see him get a win, too. I feel like he was a little snake bitten from the win perspective. Good starts, just not getting the run support. Well, he got enough tonight. When you go 8 innings and only give up 4 hits, the 2 earned, as you mentioned already, only walked 2, 3 Ks. He lowers that ERA under 3. He's down to a 2.95 ERA on the season now. Leiter comes in the ninth, cleans it up, gets his second save of the season, lowers his ERA to 1.77. I mean, Juice, we talked about last night's win being just what the doctor ordered to change everything around. But they had to use quite a bit of the bullpen. They went to Estrada, they went to Fulmer, they went to, Leiter, who we got to see again tonight. 2 pitchers to get you through the game. You can't ask for more. That's what the doctor ordered, was an 8-inning Stro start to really save this bullpen that's been struggling right now. And again, like you mentioned, just he was getting it all done too, right? Inducing the ground ball. The ground ball rate was high tonight, just 3 Ks from Stro over the course of 8 innings. But the stuff looked good. He was in control, like you said, Juice. And on top of it, made a couple of nice plays in the field too. Just showing off the complete package, as you said, as an ace pitcher for the Chicago Cubs team.
He's kind of got it all, right? I mean, he's got the Sanker was Sankin, as you said earlier on in the year. His skill set fits this team so well, right?
Oh yeah.
He puts the ball on the ground often, has weak contact, and he just allows the lineup and those guys who are out there in the infield to just pounce on ground balls all day. And it's going to be successful as long as you got guys like Nico Horner and Dansby Swanson up the middle. It was great. There's really no trouble other than maybe a few innings that he had to wiggle his way out of. But I mean, it was just impressive just to see him be so efficient. We look at starters now, and you're happy when they go sixth. When they can go 2 extra, it's like you've bought a whole game worth of rest, essentially, for some of these guys in the pen. And it also kind of bridges the gap to some solutions. You look at Cody Hoyer, that's a name that's going to be coming off the list and able to be activated in about a week. There were some good reports out of him
He's
from Iowa.
Shit pumping 98 down in
So
right now.
So now you're looking, it's another game that you've won, that you've bought time for your Achilles heel to be fixed. And anytime that you can only use one guy, and let's be completely honest, like using Leiter, he probably is still available for tomorrow. He only went 1 inning. He didn't throw a lot of pitches. It was essentially like a side session for him. So realistically, the only one who should not be available going into tomorrow is Marcus Stroman. That's it. And that's going to be, we talked earlier on the show about Kyle Hendricks coming out. You hope that it's the Kyle that we've seen at Wrigley Field of old, but you don't know. You may have to, get in a game where you got to slug it out, and you're going to have to find 4 or 5 guys to get you to the end of tomorrow's ball game. You don't want to, kind of burn tonight what you could maybe have to use tomorrow. So tonight meant so much for that pitching staff to get just a night off, essentially, and the good vibes of there's 2 straight games that your bullpen has come into with high leverage situations and gotten the job done. He's, it was the most interesting part about the broadcast. I did not realize this. Boog brought it up, and you may have been doing Blackhawks stuff at that point. But Boog was talking about how after his start, he'll mimic the pitches he throws left-handed. He'll throw the same amount of pitches with his stance left-handed. That way he keeps himself in balance and doesn't have issues with one side of his body, opposed to it kind of keeps everything stretched, and he doesn't get tensed up on one side. And I thought that was interesting. There's something I never even thought of, that you do so much movement with one side of your body, and that left side kind of gets neglected. But he's kind of found a way to kind of combat a little bit. And he doesn't throw crazy hard. He doesn't have the 95 plus stuff. I mean, he can get up there, but he's not a power pitcher. He pitches to contact. But I just thought it was interesting to there's so many, we sit here and we watch the game, we think like they show up, they stretch, they get ready, but you don't realize like the behind the scenes stuff that they don't ever talk about. That just makes me so badly want to be like in a locker room for just a homestand. Just be like, what are these guys doing when the game's over, pregame? You know, I know we talked to Steele a lot about it, but Steele like just seems like that normal kind of prototypical pitcher, right? The guy who he just shows up and he's got the bulldog in him and he just competes. Where opposed to like Stroman's like quirky. He's got that difference about him where he's always trying things. It kind of reminds me of like a less like I wouldn't say less athletic, but like a less strong. Like remember Jake Arrieta was doing all the Pilates and all that weird stuff. Like it kind of reminds me of that. It's like Marcus Stroman in a lot of ways, and you could probably speak a lot to this as you're as Marcus Stroman stan, but he's different, and I think it's interesting to see that that was something that he thought of or he's read about or he's a very intelligent, smart guy, a guy who's really into his craft and into pitching. It's interesting to see that like he's found some success and like, hey, after this, I need to mimic at least 90. If I throw 95 pitches with my right arm this way, after I got to mimic, 95 on the left side or do something to the left side to even out what I did. That way, I'm keeping my body balanced. I'm keeping my center.
Yeah, he's and this is why Juice, like for stuff like this is why I enjoy when players go on podcasts and speak out. I enjoy when guys produce their own content and aren't afraid to hide things from the general public because it is such a fascinating part of being an athlete, right? Like at any level of sports that you've played. Like if you've walked into a trainer's room, that is the type of stuff, right? Like the conversations in the trainer's room, right? Like what guys do to get ready. Everybody's got their own different routines. Stroh has always been very public about the amount of training he does, both with his mind, but also with his body as a whole. He's very big on balance. Balance to him is the biggest key because he takes it back all the way to a point where pre-pitch clock, obviously, when he used to do a lot more of it, he still does some of it now, but on a more reduced scale, was messing with a hitter's timing because he said he used to sit in the cages with the guys that he played in Toronto with, the Bautistas and the Donaldsons and all of those guys, the Encarnaciones of the world, and ask those guys what's the biggest thing that pisses you off as a hitter that a pitcher can do, and they would always say it's to mess with his timing. He actually called out former Cub Nick Castellanos as one of those guys that he talks to a lot and asks those kind of questions to. Timing is everything with everybody and anything, right? Timing is everything. And for him, he learned the only way he could really mess with timing was for his body to be able to handle, standing in a stretch hold for a long time, giving weird movements. Kind of we've seen it with like Nestor Cortez does it a little bit too, where he gets all weird and off balance. Then he comes in with a weird arm angle and gives you something that's off. It screws with your timing and your thought process. Stroh's very big on that too. So it doesn't surprise me that he does that, but it's really cool to learn that because he is so big on balance and everything and fluidity and his core strength. Like he talks so heavily about keeping his core strong because the core feeds everything. And, so to hear that kind of, that piece it's not surprising, but it's really cool to think that like he then goes back and he'll mimic, 88 pitches or whatever it took, or 89 pitches, I think it took tonight to get through the 8 innings of what he threw in each of those 89 pitches. So I think that is incredibly fascinating.